Hello, I'm Sam, and that wee silky creature is Bonnie, and it's been over a month since I made a video, which is a really long time for me. I don't think I've ever left it that long. I needed to work through a lot of stuff that had been building over the last few years, but I'm back and have some thoughts to share, and I thought I'd start the walk here. I'll start the video here. It's a beautiful spot, and the wee creature who has a thing for collecting sticks, she's one of my best therapists. She's such a joy to be with. So she and I are going to wander deep into the forest this morning. This is close to the edge and there's a campsite over here, so though it's early, there'll be lots of people around here soon because it is so beautiful. But I thought I'd start here, and then we're going to walk deep into the forest where there's no people. I've been spending a lot of time in the forest with this wee creature over the last couple of weeks, just going deeper than I've ever been. Yesterday we walked for 2 hours into the forest. She's a long way, and it was quite wonderful to be at peace. Look at that tail. Oh, she's so cute. Okay, so I just wanted to say hello, and I'm going to end it here, and we'll start again when we're deep in the forest. Shall we go? Come on. Okay, see you soon. Hey, so here I am in the forest. I'm just going to keep walking up this track and share a few thoughts. So, yeah, I needed a break. Over the last year or so, I've really felt more and more uneasy about talking about myself, because I knew I was just exploring the story of the outer self, the self that is, consciously and unconsciously contrived as a compensation for the loss of our true self that happens in abuse, persistent abuse, because we think that we're not enough, there's something deeply wrong with us. And if the abuse happens before the age of 7, from the beginning in my case, as identity is forming, these ideas and concepts become woven into the fabric of our identity. I am not enough. There's something deeply wrong with me. I'm a disgusting, contemptible creature that doesn't deserve happiness or even food. No sustenance, no love. So that becomes just completely intertwined with your conception of who you are, which is why the outer self is conjured as a compensation, as a way of protecting that inner, sensitive, vulnerable core. But over time, the outer self grows to despise that truer part of us, where our vulnerability and innocence lies, and it begins to hate that because it perceives it as weakness. And so that began for me very, very young. I began to hate myself for needing to be loved and wanting anything, just wanting anything. And so over time that turns into this cruel dynamic of self-harm. The harm happens in our thoughts, it happens in our actions, it happens in the denial of our needs. And so, in my case, that turned into overt self-harm, eating disorders, drug abuse, all of that stuff. So, yeah, over the last few years, 10 years really, when I sort of realised that I didn't know who I was. And inside me there was a little boy screaming in anguish, and he'd been there all of my life. I just started to ask myself questions like, who am I? Why am I? Why do I do the things I do? Why do I think and feel the way I do? Why do I constantly live in conflict and crisis, inwardly and outwardly? Why is my life so hard? what is this pain that I've been carrying all of my life? And so I began to ask myself those questions, and gradually I deconstructed the outer self, and I saw it for what it was: a network of longing, compensations, pleas for validation, coping mechanisms to try and remain stable and regulated, just to try and find a way to be in the world. And I saw all of that, and when I saw it all clearly, I just collapsed. It took a few years for me to see it all very, very clearly, but when I did, it ceased to function for the purpose it was constructed. And I just completely shattered. And so that was 3 years ago. And over the last 3 years, I have been sort of rebuilding, but obviously the ways of being in the world, the ways of an identity, the purpose of which was stability. You know, that's a habitual necessity. Come on, sausage. It's an habitual necessity, so it reforms. And it reforms, but you know why it's reforming in the way it is. And you resist. I resisted. And you want to change, but you can't, because this, you know, this outer self, this habitual way of being in the world, its sole purpose is to deal with the fear, and it's to protect you and try and find some stability. And so it's not going to change until you start processing the fear that's held in your body, because the reason that we go up and out into the construct of mind is because it takes us away from the real harm that's happening, the real terror that we're experiencing in our bodies. It takes us away from that, and it holds us in the abstraction, the non-physical part of us, and it keeps us there. It's a container, and it's a container where the pain can be held in a kind of like an abstract way, so it's not quite real, but it becomes a torture, because our minds become this place of torture and repetition, because the identity needs the pain to justify its ways and, you know, strategies. And it's a cruel paradox, because it's a way of preventing us from feeling real bodily pain and fear, but eventually it just becomes this torturous, never-ending nightmare, because we can't process anything, because we just keep holding on and holding on and holding on, because that identity, the outer self, says my pain, my story, my trauma, and it can't let go. So what I've been doing over the last few years on this channel is just exploring all of that, exploring the story, peeling away the story until I could see that it was just a veneer of simplistic thinking to contain the depth of experience I simply did not have the capacity to process as a baby, as an infant, as a child, as a teenager, as a young man, as a trans woman. And it just snowballed, and my nervous system just held it all without letting it go. So yeah, I just became increasingly uncomfortable, because I knew deep down that all I was doing, I was just telling the story. And I think we have to do that to a degree, because we need to see that it's just a story, and eventually you'll understand that you have to let go, because you don't have a story. Your body is your living story. Every wrinkle, every grey hair, every scar is the passage of your life written in the tissue of your being. That's the story. Your body is a portal. Your body is a portal through which life flows. You don't need to hold on to anything. You don't need to have a narrative. You are changed through experience. You learn, you grow, you gain knowledge and understanding. But because we go up and out into the abstraction, we become frozen in time. And every time that we experience something difficult or challenging, we collapse into identification with the narrative. And we say, this is me. It isn't. So, you know, I knew all this, but there's knowing and there's knowing. And so she needs a drink, but I'm not going down there. Come on, we'll find a stream. Come on, sausage. So yeah, I just reached a point, you know, in the last video, and I just can't talk about myself anymore. And really, it's a coping mechanism. And because I've been in, you know, I've had lots of counsellors and therapists over the years, and that, you know, they tried, but the shit I was dealing with was just, you know, I don't know, it wasn't the right time for me to even hear the voices of those people that were trying to help me. But over the last 6 months, I've been working with this somatic therapist, and she's amazing. I'm going to tell you how amazing she is in this video, because, you know, when I first started working with her hands-on and she touched me, I realised I've never been touched. Or more accurate to say, I've never felt anybody touch me, because I've always been so numb. And when she touched me, and what happens with a somatic therapist who's hands-on, you go into co-regulation, and she feels what I'm feeling, and in me syncing up with her nervous system and her brain state, she brings me down, and she teaching me to regulate myself, and helping me dissipate the energies that have been fizzing around in me since I was a baby. So when she first started to touch me, it was incredible, because I just realised that I've never experienced intimacy, no one's ever touched me, and it was heartbreaking. And especially when after a few sessions, you know, she started by just touching my feet and gradually worked her way up my legs to my abdomen. And when she first touched me above my pubic bone and my belly there, you know, there's a lot of sexual trauma in my life, and the trauma from all the surgeries I had when I transitioned, when I was too young to really understand what it was I was doing to myself. And there's been a lot of abuse, and when she touched me, it was just, you know, it unlocked a lot, and I cried, you know, very real tears, and she helped me express those energies of trauma and fear and anguish that had been locked up in my body. But over the last few months, when she was touching me, so much fear was coming up. She had to keep stepping away from me. And so when she was standing next to me, particularly up here, just touching me, it was just bringing up so much fear. Because now I can feel all the things I've been numbing myself from all my life, how fucking terrifying it is for someone to be near me. And, you know, that's why I feel so good. I feel at peace here. I do feel fear as well. I'm scared. But, you know, that's a healthy fear. I'm in the middle of a bloody forest, so that's primal. But the fear I feel around people is because of what's happened in the past. You know, the expectation of violence and aggression. So we reached a point about a month ago where it's 3 weeks ago, where I turned up at my session, and she said, we're going to do something different because my touch is just too triggering for you, and you're not processing anything that's coming up, you're not expressing it, so we're going to do something different. How do you feel about movement? And I said, I don't feel good about movement. I would rather just, you know, lie there and see if we could connect and help me express the emotions. I don't really want to be doing exercises. But she said, let's give it a go. So she moved all the massage table and other furniture to the edges of the room. I was sitting on a chair a couple of metres apart, because at this stage I can't even have her standing near me. she's got to leave. She can't stand in front of the door. She can't sit in front of the door. I need to have access to the door, and she needs to be away from me. And so she said, right, sit there. So move your right leg, right arm. Left leg, left arm. Now move both at once. So legs in the air, arms in the air. I'm sitting on a chair, and I said, I can't do that, so I'll just lie on the floor. So I laid on the floor, on my back. I laid on the floor on my back, and just put my arms and legs in the air and shook, just like a baby. As soon as I did that, I started crying. I started crying uncontrollably, and she asked if she could come closer and touch me, and she just came over and she put the ends of her fingers very delicately, very gently, softly above my heart, and it was soothing. And those tears have been waiting to be expressed since I was a baby, and her touch was the soothing that was missing. And the energies that were waiting for completion, those emotional tidal forces within me that were waiting for completion, completed, and my nervous system let go. So one of the symptoms of complex PTSD that I live with and have done for years is I tremble, because I've just been in hyper arousal since I was a baby, fight or flight constantly. You know, when I was a young man, I was in situations where people tried to kill me, and, you know, awful stuff all the way through my life, just cycles of fear and violence. So just reenacting the desperation of childhood. And so her touch soothed my nervous system, and that night I went to bed and I didn't shake. I wasn't shaking, and I woke up throughout the night, as I do, and I wasn't shaking, and I didn't tremble or shake for nearly a week. But, you know, there's so much in there that needs to be let out, so it came back. And then I saw her last Wednesday. Now we know that we have a way of moving forward. So we moved the furniture to the edges of the room and just went straight to the floor now. So we both sit on the floor a couple of meters apart. And I just went and lay down straight away. As soon as I lay down, I started crying. And she said, what's come up? And, you know, I spent 20 years on the floor. I was on the floor as a child a lot. I slept most of my childhood, I slept on a mattress in the corner of my room with my back to the wall, with the lights on, staring at the open door, because I was so terrified. It's a delicious pine cone. All the streams are dried up. She needs a drink. So I spent my life with my back to the wall, really. And so as soon as I laid on the floor, started crying, she said, what's come up? And I had 20 years of severe drug abuse. I had problems with drugs, alcohol and food from childhood. And as soon as I lay down, the years I spent, you know, on the floor, collapsed, having a seizure, my body in complete toxicity, vomiting and shitting, just convulsing. How many times that happened, I couldn't even tell you. Just playing with death, really, seeing if I wanted to live. And I would just lie there until the convulsions stopped and my body sort of purged. No one ever saw that. And the only way I could survive was just not feel. And I went through decades like that. And so when I laid on the floor, that came up and I just cried. And then I just couldn't handle it, and I just curled in a ball with my back to her and just cried. And she sort of asked if she could come closer, and so she gradually sort of let me know where she was in the room as she moved closer to me. And then I felt the gentlest of touch between my shoulder blades, just the gentlest of touch. And then she just slowly increased the pressure, and then she put her other hand on my lower back, gently again, and then just gradually began to push, and just steadily increasing the pressure and the rocking motion. And I just cried and cried and cried, and then began to be soothed. The water there, it's a bit stagnant, so we remained like that for quite a while. And then again that evening, no shakes, no trembles, still no trembles, and that was on Wednesday. And I saw something so clearly that as a child, my father used to tell this funny story, and he told me this when he would just tell this in public, not often, but he told it more than once. And it was when he told this when I was a child as well. And I remember just collapsing inwards into this sort of abyss of nothingness when he told this story, laughing. He just learned how to ignore me when I was a child. I went through horrible things before I was even 2, and I was irretrievably fucking damaged by then. And he said I was just inconsolable, so he just learned how to ignore me. And he was walking through the town once, and I was screaming in anguish. So we were walking through the town, and he said that he was holding my hand and I was crying. He said as people kept walking towards him, walking past him, they were just staring, and he didn't know what they were staring at. And he looked down, and I'd passed out, and he'd just been dragging me. He'd been dragging me unconscious. That's a funny story. So, sorry, I started talking about something I don't want to talk about, so I'm not going to do that anymore. It's too personal. But yeah, it was very difficult when I was a kid, and I realised something over the last few weeks as I've had those breakthroughs in somatic therapy, and it was that I remember being a child, and my mother and I have been on a 25-year journey of working through all of this stuff and reconnecting, but she chose alcohol when I was a child, and I love her dearly now, and she is, she's changing. At 78, she's still changing, and she takes responsibility. But she chose alcohol when I was a kid, and I remember being starving, coming into her room, and I've shared this memory in a previous video, but it's illustrative of what I can see more clearly now. And I was hungry. And it was like afternoon, and I said, I'm hungry. And this smell of alcohol in the air, and this muffled cry from the pillow coming back, there's bread in the cupboard and water in the tap. This is just completely normal. That's completely normal. And my father as well. They were so cut off from their own feelings. They were numb to their own pain. So they couldn't see what was happening. And I remember saying the same to him when he was around. I'm hungry. And he said, you don't even know what hunger is. And his face would curl up in this sneer, and he'd speak to me with such disgust. And I remember being shocked and like, what is happening? And he just said, he just treated me with such contempt and disgust. And I remember all of those things, those two like little vignettes I shared, I never even thought about that for most of my life, because it was just completely normal. That was just like, is that abuse? Is that neglect? It's just how it was, you know? So, you know, I don't know how you can't experience both abuse and neglect. If you're experiencing abuse in the family home as a child, you're experiencing neglect as well. And neglect is kind of, in a way, it's more damaging, because without secure attachment and a safe container within which to process the emotions of abuse, there's nowhere to go. There's nowhere to go. Which is why we just go inside and we throw up a barrier, and we call that the outer self, the false self. And then we forget that there is this being sheltered inside that has never, ever, ever had a chance to blossom and show up and just say, this is me. And to be welcomed into relationship and exploration, and to say, yeah, you are here, and to show you that there's something valuable, meaningful and beautiful in your existence. You don't have that. So you just hold it all inside, and you have to hold it up and out in the abstraction of this story, just so you can't feel it. But the torture is, it's held there all the time. It's like an implicit kind of program in the background, and it's torture. So, you know, I saw clearly over the last few weeks, I thought, oh my God, all my life I have struggled with conflict. Every time I wanted anything at all, I could not want without at the same time hating myself for what I wanted. I could not want anything without at the same time being disgusted and self-sabotaging, because I thought, I don't deserve this, I'm unworthy, simply because of that fundamental need of food, sustenance. Never mind all the other needs I was completely unaware of, even when I was like fucking 7 years old. I was completely unaware that there was this other need of intimacy and tenderness and love and support. I didn't even know that, because it'd never been there. Just food. No wonder I developed an eating disorder. You know? So seeing all this clearly is extremely liberating. And something is happening to me now. This is why, I said in the last video a month ago that I have to do this in a different way, because when I talk about this too much, and I'm doing it now because I want to just, give an update and show you what's been happening. Because that's what this channel is about. It's about the arc of transformation that is healing. Like I keep saying, I'm committed to documenting that process, but I am changing, and I need to change how I do this. What form that's going to take, I don't know. So, my nervous system is just, I feel like I'm just coming down and in and feeling, and my nervous system is tingling. It's tingling. It's like I'm coming alive, but not that edgy fear of hyper arousal. It's just like, I don't know, reconnecting. And Bonnie. She found some water. Oh, lovely. Hey, Bonnie. Look at that silky, beautiful creature. I know it's grey and overcast today, but this is a temperature inversion because there's a lock down there. So there's like cloud, and as the cloud burns off throughout the day, it's going to be blazing sunshine, mid-20s, which is really hot for up here in the Highlands. So we're out early. Ooh, more water. Okay, so yeah, feels like my nervous system is just, I'm coming alive, and I realise how capable I am as a person, what I've survived, what I can do, absent that feeling of self-disgust for anything I wanted. It's okay to want what I want. It's okay to want what I want. And what I want is, it's nothing grand, It's nothing spectacular. And it's okay. It's okay. I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. I had a dream not too long ago. And in the dream there was a younger version of me wrapped in barbed wire in like a shallow dip like that. And there was another version of me standing on this higher ground, and I went down into the dip. This younger version just wrapped tightly in barbed wire, and I just cut its throat. That's the dynamic between the outer self and the vulnerable centre that has never had a chance to blossom and live. The outer self despises it because it's weak. That's what it thinks, it's weak. But it takes so much strength initially to learn how to be vulnerable and show yourself and say, here I am. And allow the world to find you, and allow yourself to be seen without self-hate, without apologising. Show yourself. Eventually the outer self, just that voice of criticism and hate, that really, we need not frame it as a negative because it had a purpose. You became who you needed to become, precisely who you needed to become to survive, precisely. So don't hate that part of you that is the protector but now is the jailer. Don't hate it. You coming out? Ronnie? Come on, sausage. Here, don't hate it. God, it saved your life. That part of you, it saved your life. So we can reframe everything and see it clearly that there is nothing wrong. There's never been anything wrong. Everything was as it needed to be. You were as you needed to be. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing you need to fix. There's nothing you need to fix. So, radical acceptance. I am who I needed to be. But now I want more. I want freedom. And to be free, you have to come into balance, outer and inner. And it takes a long time because that outer self is rigid and certain, doesn't want uncertainty. And healing really is uncertainty. It's unknowing, undoing, uncertainty. Okay, we'll turn around. You'll hear me puffing and panting if we walk up there. So, gentle change. You have to, I recommend. Come on, wee creature. We have to go out of our, I keep saying have to. We do have to go out of our comfort zone. We have to do something different. You are changed through action, not through thought. You are changed through action, not thought. So doing, move the boundaries of your uncertainty, the little realm of illusory safety you've created, and just do something different and see what happens. I mean, it takes years, and it is so destabilizing. It's so destabilizing, but it begins with it just accepting where you are and who you are right now, and that ceases to feed the war raging inside you, the war of conflict. I should be doing something different. I should be different. There's something wrong. Why do I always keep making mistakes? Why does this keep happening? I am the pain. I am the pain. You're not the pain. The pain belongs to the story. There is no pain that's yours. There's no trauma that's yours. Your body doesn't have a story. Your body is the story. And that story, it's not even something you need to keep telling yourself. It's something you're experiencing. Change, you know. Don't hold anything. So we have to accept where we are and who we are, and then gradually start to move the boundary of our comfort zone. Start forming relationships. You're not rolling in that. Come on, leave. Green poo. So we have to start forming relationships, and you know, quite often when people reach out to me and they're stuck, I recommend volunteering with animals in some way. You know, first of all, you'll be terrified because you'll think, oh my god, I'm going to kill the animals, or something's going to go wrong, because it always goes wrong. Gradually over time you learn to trust yourself, and the animals will respond to your truthful emergence, because it's a really good way of co-regulating, because especially dogs, they understand what you're feeling. They understand your facial expressions and the what's called prosody, which is the melodic tone of your voice, the tension in your voice, or the soothing in your voice. That's why dogs respond when you go hello like I always do to my dogs. So they understand. That's ambitious. And they're joyful. Look at that. That's joy. A dog's just happy to be a dog. Bonnie, what are you doing, sausage? See, how can you not smile in the presence of that? So, I'm going to end on this, because I want to give her some attention. The greatest agony that we live with, it isn't the memories of abuse or neglect or addiction, or, you know, the horrors you've done to survive and cope. It's not that. Those are things that you can just process and let go. The greatest agony is the loss of ourself. That is the deepest wound of all, but also where the greatest treasure lies, because you're still here. You're still here. And you can come back to yourself. Come back to that truthful essence that's never had an opportunity or a chance to come into expression and discovery. And so though, you know, there are times when I have grieved the loss of never really being here and the agonies I've endured in my life, I am here. I am here. And the more I complete those energies fizzing around in my nervous system, the more I drop into my body, because it's a good place to be, and it never has been a good place to be at any time in my life. So come back to yourself gently, gradually, slowly. I recommend somatic therapy, hands-on. Build a relationship of trust. Build a relationship of trust over time. It's going to take years. It's going to take years. But just like relationships and environment wounded us so profoundly, relationships and environment can bring us into more intimate relationships, an ability to show up, ability to regulate our own emotions, and to become stable. in the inherent instability of life. It's all a mystery. It's all a mystery. Okay, that's it. I think I'm drifting now and I'm waffling a bit, so I'm going to end it there. As ever, thank you for being here. And even though I'm not sure how I'm going to continue to make these videos, because I don't want to do this. I don't want to keep going through the stories anymore, because the stories and the retelling of the stories all the time, which is what I do on this channel. I use my own experience to sort of illustrate, you know, what we live with as people that have experienced abuse and how we heal. It keeps the story alive, and it's been derailing the actual process of coming back down into the body, because you know, the more I talk about it, the more it's kind of coming up and out into mind. I need to be sort of just settling into my body, so I don't really want to keep talking about it, but we'll find a way to continue, because I'm going to keep making the videos. So, you know, just stick with me, stick with the channel, and we'll see where it goes. Right, she needs some attention. Yeah, if you need to talk, there's a link under every video to my website, and there's a contact page there. And if you'd like to support the channel, you know, there's things I want to do now, and I want to continue to make these videos as I venture into unknown territory. And you know, if you want to help make that happen, whatever that may be, you can always donate. I appreciate every penny that's donated. It makes a difference, so thank you very much. And there's a donations link under every video, and I think that's it. The wee girl needs some attention. I'm going to break that stick up for her as well, so she loves to have like 3 or 4 sticks in her mouth at the same time. Very proud. Okay, take care, and I'll see you soon. I thought I'd add some footage on the end. So blue sky and Bonnie carrying sticks. I broke it in half for her. She's very happy. Look at that. Happy dog. You're never far from the sound of running water. Just see a little burn down there. Look at that wiggling bum. Okay, that's it. Can't just have footage of us two walking through the forest silently. So that's it. I'll see you soon.